Hey, in this video, I wanted to tell you a story about the last life insurance policy I ended up selling. And the tragic thing about this story is that I did end up having to pay out the actual life insurance for the policy that was open. Now, full disclosure, I am a licensed life insurance agent. I have not sold the policy in probably, I don't know, 7, maybe longer years. And it's because I wasn't active, and I'm still not really an active agent. I just keep my license available in case I ever decide I wanted to go back, because finance and insurance is kind of go hand in hand, and it's something I just really believe in. And I also have let my license lapse once before and had to go through the whole 40-hour class to re-get it all over again and take the test. And I just didn't want to hassle with that. So every 2 years, I take continuing education classes online, and I usually refresh myself. But throughout the year, I also do follow finance, and because it's just an interest of mine. And I'm also, I guess sometimes people ask me for advice on what they should do regarding life insurance and retirement. And if anybody needs a policy, then I can also go ahead and, have access to these brokers that have all these listings where I can submit someone's information, and it gives me a list of all these different companies that have different quotes. Now, the good thing about life insurance is, regardless who you buy it from, it's going to be the same price, whether I sell it from somebody or another agent sells it from somebody, as long as it's the same company, because the companies set their prices and every agent is only going to be privy to those prices. There's not going to be an adjustment. There's no difference in prices between agents on a specific company. Now, every company has different rates, and that's going to be a different story. But so when I can basically shop rates. So I do that for people, or I did it for people once in a while. And when I was active, I used to do it quite often. I would punch in everybody's data. It'd give me a list of like 30 or 40 different companies and their life insurance rates, different policies that they can go in. We can definitely choose the least expensive, but depending on what kind of company, some of them are very hard to qualify for. So anyway, these are services that I used to offer. And I think it was about 7 years ago, a friend of mine asked if I would open a policy for them and, do their life insurance. Now, because they were friends, there are some things that I don't feel comfortable, or I want to make sure they're comfortable about me knowing, because when you do a life insurance policy, you do need to know about their finances and their whole financial situation. And some people are embarrassed about it, especially if we're very close as far as friends would go. So I asked them if they were really, really sure they wanted me to do it, because I didn't feel comfortable. The relationship that we had, I just thought, I don't know if they really wanted me to see their financial situation, which wasn't bad. They could have been really wealthy. It's just one of those things. I have relatives that will not do life insurance policies with me because they don't want to share how much savings they have, or I don't know what it is about that. There's a lot of privacy around finances, and I get it, But this particular person or couple said they don't have anything. They're not ashamed of anything, and they're okay with me knowing their financial situation. And they chased me down. Actually, I actually was going to refer them even to another person to do it that would be adequate, or I trusted, that would open the policy for them. But they said no, they really wanted me to do it. So I went over to their house and sat down with them, went over all of their financial situation, and decided how much life insurance that they needed for each other to have coverage. One of the spouses was going to retire, so they were setting things up for retirement as well. So we went over a whole financial plan, and we figured out, well, they were in a pretty good position. They just wanted a little extra coverage to, if something were to happen to one or the other, they could cover the mortgage or just pay off some extra, I guess, have some extra added expenses. They had some good retirement already set up as well. Everything was in place, so they didn't really need a lot of insurance. I would say maybe about $350,000 or so. That's just enough to pay off the rest of a house or something that was maybe left because of maybe a renovation, or just to cover also funeral expenses and things here and there. So with that type of amount of money, they were in good health, and I put the policy together. And here is where things got really kind of crazy. But it was, I think, within a year to a year and a half, one of the members of the married couple ended up getting a disease that was terminal. Now, if you think of terminal diseases, could be a lot of people. Honestly, cancer is a big one. Right now, we have also blood diseases. We also have brain diseases, things that actually, once they start down the path, there's non-reversible, and you're basically terminal. So thank goodness this policy was put together, because once you get diagnosed with something like that, you cannot get life insurance. And this particular disease hit pretty hard and pretty fast. And it also accrued a lot of added expenses for medical things. So the 350,000 definitely came into play as far as adding a lot of protection for financial stability after the death of one of the spouses. And it was very tragic. And it was really sad that it actually happened. And I just want to put this into your minds as far as something to think about. This is not to scare anybody into getting life insurance. My wife and I, before we got married, because I was an agent, and as soon as we were engaged, we knew we were going to get married and we were planning to spend the rest of our lives together. Because we were so young, well, young then, I was in my early 30s and she was in her mid 20s, and we decided we were going to get life insurance, and we had already started down the path of knowing that we would be doing a lot of investments and have a lot to grow on. So we took out a 30-year life insurance policy for $1 million on each of us. Now that's a lot at the time from what I was making. I think I was making about $80,000 to $90,000 a year as a retail store manager, and she was a college student actually, or getting out. She just got out of college, so she was kind of still looking for some permanent work at the time. But while this was going on, we were in very good health, and we just figured we might as well get a long-term policy put in place so that we don't ever have to worry about it for a long time. Now, that was 21 years ago, and we had a 30-year policy. So we're about 9 years left of this policy. But between the two of us, over the last 21 years, because we were so young when we got it, we have $1 million coverage, and it's like $120 a month for both of us being covered for $1 million each. And if something were I've heard to have happened over the last 30 years, one of us gets sick, the other would be taken care of pretty well. Now, I'm an insurance agent, so obviously I think above and beyond protection normal. So I want to go ahead and just kind of go over a couple of reasons or a couple of things to think about of why, if you are married and someone is depending on your income, or even if they're not depending on your income, say if you are stay-at-home spouse and you take care of the kids, it doesn't matter what gender, but that's part of your job, to take care of the kids while the other spouse is working. I think it was like 10 years ago, they did a study to say that somebody who's staying at home taking care of kids is equal to about $80,000 worth of salary per year. And that was an interesting statistic, because you don't need to have daycare if they're staying home or taking care of all of the household needs, but the responsibilities that the person does saves about $80,000 a year. So that's what the worth is of that person. Anyway, here's the things I would like to go over: the 7 reasons why someone might want to think about getting life insurance. If you're on the fence or you've been looking for a reason to get it, one is going to be financial protection for your dependent. So for the other spouse or for your kids, you have some extra funds if something were to happen to you, because we just never know. The two guarantees on this earth is death and taxes, right? So there's going to, sooner or later, unfortunately, one of the guarantees is going to happen, and you're going to have some type of protection for your dependents. If you are the dependent on somebody else, that's another reason why you might want to think about it. I put life insurance in place, so in case something were to happen to me, I would never have to worry about my wife. So number 2 is peace of mind. Okay, so the first one is to protect your dependents. Number 2 is for actual peace of mind. I used to tell people that if I jumped on a plane and I used to have any type of anxiety about, what if something were to happen? Once I just thought about the fact that I have $1 million life insurance policy on me if the plane were to go down, and I actually think we may have accidental on top of that my wife would be set for life. And it gave me a lot of peace. I could go to sleep on the plane without even have to worry in a minute. That's just one of those weird things that I have to think about to get my flying anxieties out. The other thing that a lot of people like to do is to actually cover their debt, and especially their mortgage. If you have a mortgage, that is one thing that will absolutely would want to get covered or taken care of if someone were to pass away between the two who are the bedrock or are money earners for the family. And if the mortgage is taken care of, then you don't have to worry about a roof over your head. Of course, property taxes and all that aside, the actual mortgage being paid off is a huge relief for most people. Also, if they decide to sell the property, the mortgage is already paid off. They get the full amount for the property sale, and they can move into rent something smaller if they want to. That's kind of a big, again, financial piece, getting rid of any type of debts that might be in place. Hopefully you don't have any debts, but if you do have a mortgage, understandable, and you want that paid off. Now, mortgage insurance is an absolute ripoff. So if you don't understand mortgage insurance versus life insurance, a term life policy versus a mortgage insurance policy, you will have way more benefits over a term life policy for the same amount of years versus a mortgage insurance policy. And if you need to look into that, please do some research. If you want to know more about it, let me know in the comments and I will do a video on the difference between term insurance versus mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is an absolute ripoff. No one should ever get it. Get a term policy instead of it and replace it. If you look into it, you'll see why. Term insurance goes down over as your mortgage goes down, so does your coverage because it just covers the mortgage. Term life insurance stays level. So as the mortgage goes down, your payout will still stay the same. So once the mortgage is paid off, if something were to happen to one of the spouses that was covered, you get the full amount that you actually put in. Mortgage insurance is an absolute ripoff. I'm going to just say this the last time I'm going to tell that for this one. If you want to know more about it, let me know. I'll do a video on that. The other reason you want to have life insurance is income replacement. So say if my wife and I are both making $50,000 a year and something were to happen to her or me, then to cover the income that is lost from that person who passes away, that's what life insurance is very good for. You usually want to have 10 years of annual income to cover that. And you really want to think about, when it comes to income replacement, also to cover your income while you're grieving. Everybody grieves differently. This is a big thing to think about. A lot of people don't. Will you be able to work if something were to happen to your significant other? Or will they be able to work if something happens to you? Do you want them to work 10 days after? A lot of places only give like 5 to 10 days bereavement and that's it. They have to go back to work. Will they be in the right mindset to even go back? I mean, when a parent passes away, think about that trauma. For my wife and I, when our dog passed away 2 years ago, we're still grieving over our dog passing. It's been so rough. We can't imagine if one of us had to actually still go back to work. I mean, yeah, we'd probably be in such a mental mess that we wouldn't be able to work for a year, and that person would not have to work for many years, actually, quite a while. So that's the income replacement that can actually be taken. You might have to replace 2 incomes. Think about what could really happen if one of the spouses were to pass away. Now, you don't have to be married. I know I say spouses, but if you are common law couple, then also think about that as well, because if you have your finances tied together, that financial replacement is going to be a necessity. Next, you also want to go what they call final expenses or burial costs, funeral costs. You know, if something were to happen to me, I mean, I don't really want anybody spending a lot of money on my funeral, honestly. But it would be nice to have a maybe get together so that people could actually mourn in their way, but also to maybe celebrate where I'm gone, right? So some people call it celebrating life celebration. But those final expenses, there's some expense that has to go into place. A lot of times maybe it will be funeral expenses, cremation expenses, but that should be a bare minimum that has to be covered, because it is very expensive. If you look into it, I think a minimum now is like $25,000 to get everything settled. You know, the other thing, the last part is, so I think I've covered 5 of them already right now. But estate planning is another thing that you should be thinking about if you have, I guess, an abundance or some settlement, or if you have just stuff. I mean, even owning, if there is something were to happen to your significant other or someone you depend on their finances, do you have your finances to cover any type of expenses for the estate that actually is in place? And it also sometimes covers a lot of probate expenses that might have to be put in place as well. And it depends on your financial situation, but that is something that you might want to definitely think about in planning. If you own a business, that's another thing too. There's business continuity that also life insurance can also protect business partners, if that's another thing that you might want to think about for life insurance. But that is pretty much, in a broad nutshell, not to go too far. I mean, it's already a 15-minute video, but I wanted to make sure that we covered some of the thoughts that most people don't think about. You know, especially like what happens if somebody else passes away. The other thing is, you can get life insurance online. Yes. I would highly recommend finding a life insurance agent that you can work with. And the reason being is because if something were to happen to your significant other, the life insurance agent can just be called. You tell them what happens. They can help take care of a lot of the stuff for you. You have some connection. Now, of course, you could do it yourself. But when our friend passed away and I was called or I was told that it happened, at that point I could jump in and then go ahead. Now, that was the first policy I ever had to pay out. So I called the life insurance company that I was working with, and I made sure I had everything in line so she didn't or he didn't have to take care of it. I could just go there, get the paperwork that was needed, because normally it's a death certificate, and explain the whole process when they had time to talk to me, and they didn't have to go ahead and pick up a phone and talk to a stranger. You know, I could be there for them. And really, how when somebody says, "Is there anything I can do for you?" There is nothing better for a friend to be able to say, is there something I can do to you? And then get them their life insurance claim taken care of. To be honest, I mean, if there's anything that actually helps the grieving process even a little, is not to be worried about finances. A lot of people don't have to worry about it, but a lot of people do worry about finances during that time. So I am not a non-active agent, but I am wanting to say that I do help people who want help, and I do have a life insurance license in the state of California only. So if somebody is wanting questions answered, by all means, let me know. I can go ahead and help you with some of those questions. If not, though, find an agent in your area, but try to find, honestly, an agent that is, I would want to say, that actually is not a captive agent. Like, there are agents that are actually only allowed to sell whatever insurance company they work with. Like myself, I'm an independent agent, and I can sell anybody's life insurance. I just have to get appointed by them when the time comes, but I can shop all these different agencies, find out which is the cheapest, and then work with the company that does the brokering for it, and they can tell me which is the best ones that should be recommended because qualifications are easier or paperwork can be done faster, and then I can help people with that. So I am, although non-actively out there selling, I do actually help people with it, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this video is not to try to get you to buy insurance from me. The purpose of this is just to let you be aware that life insurance is a part of a good financial portfolio and picture, especially if people are depending on your income or you depend on somebody else's. So anyway, that's today's video. I will do more about finances and budgeting and everything else because that seems to be what most people seem to want. In the community poll that I put up there, the number one thing people are asking for is more financial tips and advice. We'll go into some budgeting. We'll go into some also saving money and other things that can be very helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If I've earned your subscription, I'd be very pleased for you to go ahead and hit that subscription button. And again, we'll do more of this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.